Good evening, all. Ira Epstein with Linn and Associates for your metal market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for the evening of Wednesday, the 14th of June, 2023. Remember, tomorrow, I believe, we get the European Central Bank's announcement. We had our Fed announcement today, and it reminded me of a Supreme song. I was just trying to think about what the group was. Remember that Stop in the Name of Love? Well, this was not that. Stop. This is a pause, not a skip. That's basically what our Fed chair said. He's redefining. He didn't like the idea of skip and pause and one means the other. What he said is none of the members are saying that the interest rates are going to cut. We're going back to the pause word because that's what it is. There's not going to be a cut unless out of nowhere inflation came tumbling down. That's what you have to walk away from. The dot plot. 2 more rate hikes at least, right through the end of the year. Unrealistic is a 2% goal. I think it's very unrealistic. They'll hold to it for a while, but I think 2.5 is a cry that you'll hear in 2024, a more realistic downside target. But it's over, and that's the good news, and that's the important thing. Is this market getting ahead of itself is going to be the big question. The first thing in the metals that they had to look at was if you're going to keep going with higher interest rates, that's a major headwind. So the gold and the silver market come under pressure. Forget about the copper. It's not looking at that. It's looking at what's China going to do or not do. That's going to be the important thing. As for the dollar itself, it was down 40 points, but we have to see how it's going to react to all this because the market is saying there's still going to be 2 more hikes. However, the naysayers came back and bought all the stock indices. They were down a lot harder and they came back today. Why? Because they don't believe it. They think the Fed is full of, you know what, that they're never going to go for the 2 more hikes. The market can absorb it. The economy's strong and it's the way we go. Jeff Gundlach today, I was watching him, I think it was CNBC. He hit it on the head. It is a mania. That doesn't mean it can't go higher, Jeff, but it is a mania. And finally, Tesla, after 13 days in a row up, lost a little bit, just a little bit. When you look at the gold market, I haven't changed my opinion. You're fighting your battle at the 18-week average. And if the market finishes on Friday, underneath 1950.90, you then have the bias to the downside and you open up some new downside chapters. You can't look at a daily bar chart right here and tell me that you've broken out upside or downside. You do see this is where the market's been and it's where it's still at. The trend is down. It's been down. It was down yesterday with lower highs, lower lows. The market failed at the combination and had to get up and over, as you know. I kept telling you what I thought would happen to the upside of the market because I think we all thought that we were into a real pause. We're not in a real pause. A real pause could lead you that the Fed's going to go down. That's not what it is. We're embarking on something new. And if the Fed does the 2 rate hikes that the Fed chair was talking about, you paused in June, you're going to go up in July, you'll pause the next one, you'll go up the one after that. That's probably the sequence that they're talking about. Obviously, it's data dependent, but what did the Fed say? Exactly what I said. You cannot say that core inflation is falling sharply. We've got the headline down, but the core, their favorite indicator, and PCE, what you're looking at there is they're too sticky. So the Fed's got to continue on with its mission. They said there is that lag effect. They're seeing certain things happening. Labor is still very, very strong. And I don't see labor collapsing in the middle of, we're not even there. With the beginning, the first 2 weeks of June, you got a ways to go, and there's still probably hiring going on for summer jobs right now. Resistance, very strong back at 1974.70, the 18-day average, to the 18. Support's right here. So what I teach is where we're at. I say when you get this narrowness in the bands, you get these breaks down and you think there's going to be follow through, and there rarely is. That doesn't mean that it can't happen, not me, that it can't happen, but it generally doesn't. I'm looking to see if we had one of these patterns, another type one. We don't. You have this one, similar right through here, but that's really about it. You don't have the rest of it at this point in time. So I'm looking at the bearishness there, and I'm looking at an oversold market. I would not get excited on the downside. I think that the gold will find its legs. It's not time to be a buyer. That's not what you're hearing. And I was all prepared. I had my finger ready to type out and go, okay, folks, here's the thing. Because I thought the Fed would say different than they said today. I thought the meeting was a surprise. And I think that any analyst that was there looking at it, they were going, because we kept hearing, wasn't every analyst, we're at the end of this cycle. That's not what the Fed said. 2 hikes, we may need more. Some members think you got to go to 6%. That would be 3 hikes because you're 5.25 right now. When we take a look at the August gold versus July silver, silver continues to outperform the gold, and you see that here. Gold's at the lower part of its Bollinger Band. Here you're back at the 18-day average fighting your battle. And the battle's between the 100-day average in green and the 18. But again, it's not in a buy configuration. The question is it's not in a sell one either. In the copper, you're overbought. You could embed. Now, to embed, you've got to get both numbers staying over 80 at least 3 days in a row. And I could see that this isn't working. I forgot to do something. That's not going to work. But trust me, you're right at the cusp of all that. In the platinum, higher high, lower low, and here too, embedding but the wrong way, to the bear side of the market. And as I told you, yes, you will get rallies in platinum. You always do inevitably. But just like in oil, if you're watching the IEA talk about oil and how they see us to 2025 having good demand, and then it's really trailing off. Well, every new electric car that's being made doesn't need platinum or palladium. They don't use it for catalytic converters. That's going to hurt these markets. Remember that. Then we get to the dollar index. And for me, I'm long-term getting bearish the dollar. Now, you'll say, Ira, but if they're going to raise interest rates, that's it. You're right. But the dollar recognizes now that we are at the end of the rate cycle, most likely. That's what the Fed told us. And that's why it stayed down, whereas the stock market is saying the Fed is not even going to go to that amount, and that's the difference between them. So that's where the fight is. Now, one of the patterns I'm seeing a lot of past week has been outside days. And an outside day is an interesting beast that you want to do with. Why? Because what happens in an outside day, and it happens a lot in this, is you see the pattern and people don't understand it's generally a continuation pattern. So you'll have a market that's been going down, you get one of these bounces, and all of a sudden you get an outside day down. And what does it mean? Well, you learn to work with that. But when you take out the high of an outside day down, what happens? Or the low of an outside day up, what happens? So I put together 9 video chapters that shows you that. In this case, you're not using momentum of the slow stochastic. It's purely the chart pattern. You're going to get access to my futures research. You're going to get our charting software to work with it. You're going to learn. You'll see the ideas that I have with it, and you take it from there. So how do you get this? It's simple. You go to our website, and the website, if I get this to work, is iraepstein.com under education, or click right up here. Don't know why that didn't work, but it didn't. In any case, that's the way you do it. I will see you in the other videos tonight. You have a good day.